I think this film was made for Twilight fans now they're a little bit older. We are talking about the movie Manhattan Undying, a 2016 romantic gothic vampire film directed by Babek Paymani. And the story here focuses on this young guy, and he's a tortured artist type. He has got lung cancer and he's in the advanced stages, and this is down to, at least I assume, to his hard-living party lifestyle, drinking, taking drugs, lots of smoking, sex, all that kind of stuff has led to him really living on his last legs. And he's kind of preparing some kind of work for this kind of big show. And at the same time, we have this kind of female vampire who is scouring the kind of the local club life to pick up victims and drain them of their blood. But she wants to see herself. She can't see herself because of her being obviously a vampire and can't look in the reflections and stuff like that. So she basically tracks down this artist to get him to paint a portrait so she can kind of see what she looks like. How does she do her hair and makeup though? That's what I want to know. And inevitably these two kind of form a bit of a connection, and we have this kind of this sort of doomed romance essentially. So let's talk about what works and what doesn't work. First of all, I'll point out this, although this is a supernatural film and there are there are some deaths in here, it's not really a horror film, no more than the kind of the Twilight films are. It's certainly not got any scares in it, there's no real gore in it, anything like that. But if you are a fan of vampires, and we're talking the kind of the more classic kind of gothic-y style vampires, then you will may get a kick out of this film. Like I said, it is very much a romance film. It does remind me of the kind of the Twilight films, but maybe not quite as schmaltzy and a bit more of a grown-up fashion. And the plus side of this film, I have to say, the way this is shot is a very beautiful film to look at, and is much more of a style over substance film, in regards to that. So if you like pretty things, then this movie is certainly a pretty thing. Like I said, the camera work here, the use of the kind of the lighting and the kind of the New York sort of ambiance and stuff, I think really does kind of benefit this film, make it quite a scrumptious film to look at. And I've got to say, Sarah Roma is pretty alluring as this kind of this female seductive. I kind of made the joke when I was watching this, you could have a drinking game for the amount of time she kind of just looks in the kind of the middle distance, basically. It's quite funny because she does it nearly all the time. But nonetheless, the way she's kind of shot, and she sort of silently kind of seems to appear in different places of the room, it does make it somewhat of an ethereal kind of feel to it. Have had negatives to this film. There's actually very little plot to this movie, to be honest. When it's all said and done, and you kind of look at this film and think, oh, there wasn't really much actually plot of this film. It is really just a kind of a chance meeting between these two, and that's kind of about it, really. I mean, you have this kind of police investigation. There's a couple of little kind of like B plots that go on, but when you think about it, really there's not much to it. It's just a kind of a romance. But the thing for me is I didn't think the romance particularly worked, because I didn't really buy into why these two were so attracted to each other. It just seemed to come out of nowhere, and there was no real reason, I felt, that either of them were particularly enamoured with the other, if that makes sense. It almost just felt like that's the film, so that's kind of what they've got to happen, but it just didn't seem organic to me. They just seemed to kind of almost fall for each other for no real reason. I mean, they're both obviously attractive people and etc. But other than that, you don't really feel any type of connection, I don't think. And I think it fails at that part of it. So what I mean by this film is it's very, as I've mentioned, a style over kind of a substance. Very pretty to look at, and I really liked Roma's performance as this kind of this vampire. The guy played by Luke Grimes is a little bit of an unlikable character, I've got to say. And he's obviously meant to be this kind of this hard partying guy, but as a viewer, you kind of find it somewhat kind of difficult to root for him, because he is so much of a kind of just a self-destructive person at the beginning of the movie, so you really don't feel all that much kind of sympathy for him. Like I said, very pretty to look at. If you are a fan of the kind of the classic kind of it's set in contemporary times, but if you like the things like Interview with the Vampire and stuff like that, and like Twilight as well, but maybe a bit more of an adult version, you probably want to check this one out, because it probably will tick those boxes for you. But if you want a sort of more of a story element to it and more of kind of believable characters, then maybe not. Overall, give it a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? Leave me a comment and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.